It was not a good week to be a former president of the Republic, with two former heads of state being dealt with their own blows at one stage or the other. I'm also still tracking the continued fallout from KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's explosive briefing, but this week the focus shifted to what happens next. The investigations. President Cyril Ramaphosa has won a constitutional court challenge brought by his predecessor over the legality of his decision to place Ziyanda Ngcobo on a leave of absence. Tick. Firoz Cachalia has now been sworn in as minister and will take charge of the police. So tick and tick. Acting Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga has officially retired, clearing the way for the commission's work to begin. So another tick. And globally, the US has forged ahead with its tariff hikes on countries like South Africa, Brazil, and India. I'll unpack what that means for our industries and how the government plans to protect these sectors. I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo, and this is your Week in Politics.
I solemnly affirm that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution.
Firoz Cachalia has officially been sworn in as a minister in President Cyril Ramaphosa's executive.
I don't think that I have any specific fears. I understand the moment the country is in and the awesome weight of the responsibility that I have together with others in the government. You know, I want to assure the public that their safety and security is uppermost in my mind.
But questions remain. Will Ziyanda Ngcobo, effectively on suspension, still receive his salary and perks while someone else does the job? That's one of the issues debated in the Constitutional Court on Wednesday, as former President Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto weSizwe Party challenged the move. Does the country's constitution make provision and empower the president to suspend a minister and hire an acting figure at the same time? This is one of the questions debated in the Apex Court on Wednesday. Lawyers representing former President Jacob Zuma and the MK Party contend it's illegal.
Under Section 91(3)(c), which we all agree entitles him to appoint a minister, or rather a minister who's an outsider, quote unquote. In other words, not a member of the National Assembly. No, nobody is quibbling with that. So he wants to appoint Professor Cachalia, but he wants to save Minister Ngcobo and not dismiss him.
There is no power to suspend. It's appoint, dismiss, nothing in between. There is no such thing as an acting minister. These ideas are anathema to the notion of what a minister does in the South African context under Chapter 5 of the Constitution.
Zuma has also argued that instituting a judicial commission of inquiry was the wrong course of action in light of the damning allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, which to an extent also implicated the judiciary.
It was irrational for the president to appoint a judicial commission of inquiry. Okay? Now, there's a difference between a judicial commission of inquiry and a commission of inquiry per se.
But President Cyril Ramaphosa's lawyers hit back, arguing that the suspension of Ngcobo was in the interests of proper governance and ensuring that there's no interference in the process.
Dealing with precautionary suspension in the context of employment, it is proper governance in those circumstances to say, I'm taking you, allegedly the wrongdoer, out of your office so there is no opportunity to intimidate witnesses.
Ramaphosa also says his predecessor and the MK Party have taken their grievance to the wrong place by skipping the lower courts and should not have asked for direct access from the Constitutional Court.
You can interdict as a matter, conceptually, you can. You can interdict the running of a commission if you have a good case for it and you get before a high court on its urgent role and you convince that court that on the balance of convenience, there is such prejudice to the continuation of that commission of inquiry as compared with the consequences of permitting it to continue, that you obtain your interdict.
Senzo Mkhunu's lawyer upheld the argument that the president's powers are wide-ranging, and even if it may not be spelt out in the Constitution, the authority to suspend is implied.
We say in this regard that the implied power to dismiss is an ancillary power, to suspend is an ancillary power to dismiss. And in this particular context, it is necessary to preserve the integrity of the investigations which the President has put and set in motion.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Court, please.
But less than 24 hours later, the Apex Court delivered a unanimous ruling dismissing Zuma and the MK Party's bid for direct access to them.
This is the unanimous decision of the court. The Constitutional Court has considered the application for exclusive jurisdiction and direct access. It has concluded that the application does not engage the court's jurisdiction and no case has been made out for direct access. And the following order is made. 1, direct access is refused. 2, courts are reserved. 3, reasons for this order shall be given at a later date.
Unsurprisingly, the official opposition wasn't satisfied with the verdict and had this to say.
Now, if you're going to refer to the issue of direct access to kick this matter out of this court, let us not forget that this is the same Constitutional Court that at first instance and last instance, when the case against President Zuma for him to be incarcerated without him having gone through and having had a day in court, this is the same Constitutional Court that allowed direct access for the incarceration of a man whom, by the way, had not even seen his day in court and sent him to jail. So it cannot be that for such a serious matter, such as what has been brought about the president's delinquency, on an issue that the South Africans themselves have brought up as an uproar, that this court now just sees it as an issue that should be sent back to the High Court. No. If you look at the issue of the CR17 statements, which today still have not been unsealed, it's the same court that is sitting with this issue. The issue of Phala Phala, he's never had his day in court. So the application of the law in this country, it's clear that Lady Justice has got eyes, and unfortunately, this is something that now the South Africans themselves and people on the ground must take into their own hands.
The MK Party says it's weighing its next move. It could either head to the High Court, as the Constitutional Court ruling allows, or file a rescission application. Zuma's lawyer says the former president was shocked by the outcome.
Whenever there's a difference between exclusive jurisdiction and direct access. Exclusive jurisdiction is when only this court has jurisdiction. But direct access is when other courts have jurisdiction, but there are, in the interest of justice, compelling circumstances for you to come here. I think the public must understand the difference between those two things. So the only question, put aside the question of exclusive jurisdiction. On direct access, the only question is whether anyone in this country thinks that these issues that were raised by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, which have affected all South Africans, are of sufficient significance for them to have warranted direct access.
But one legal expert believes the Constitutional Court was right to deny direct access.
It may well have been a factor that played on the court's mind to actually entertain hearing the matter. But the court needs to be very clear in terms of what matters, cross the threshold that enable either engage the court's exclusive jurisdiction in terms of the Constitution, or a sufficient case is made out for direct access. I think the court has to be very cautious in setting precedent for matters being heard directly. It would overburden the court if that bar was set too low.
The Constitutional Court, in effect, cleared the way for Firoz Cachalia to take the helm and for the judicial probe into Mkhwanazi's allegations to begin. Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, who officially hung up his robe this week, now turns his focus to leading the inquiry, which includes meeting with the man who blew the lid on alleged criminal infiltration of the police, intelligence services and the judiciary. Here's Linda Mnesi with the wrap from the Commission's very first media briefing on Monday.
Consultations with the first witness in the Madlanga Commission is imminent.
I think I should just be open with the South African public and say that the imminent consultation that I referred to is going to be with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. But regarding who the first witness will be, we are not able to say at this stage.
A team of legal eagles has also been assembled to assist the work of the Commission, and some of the notable names are Senior Counsel Advocate Terry Mudau, who will be the Chief Evidence Leader, and Advocate Adila Hassim, who was among South Africa's legal team at the International Criminal Court of Justice. This commission will take place in Gauteng, and work to secure a venue is still in the works.
The procurement process to secure a building in Gauteng is underway. That process is also underway with regard to our other infrastructure requirements. The public will be advised of the premises and online facilities where they can lodge information.
But there is skepticism over implementation of its recommendations, budgets, and whether the Commission will meet the 3 and 6 months timelines given by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
With all the talk around Mkhwanazi's allegations and how they should be handled, it's clear that South Africans, in the main, do not trust law enforcement agencies to catch the so-called big fish. Even former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo admitted that he has little faith in the Hawks and questioned the ANC's 2007 Polokwane decision to disband the Scorpions. That decision was signed off by then-President Kgalema Motlanthe. Here's what he had to say when asked about it this week.
Well, as Justice Zondo indicated, it was an ANC conference resolution driven by the Minister of Police, and I had to assent to it as President at the time.
While the should have, could have and would have debates rage, the KZN Political Killings Task Team is still making headway. Another breakthrough this week with 2 more arrests for the assassination-style murder of the DA Chief Whip in the Umgeni local municipality in Nhlanhla Ngcobo. This brings the total number of men arrested for the late councillor's 2023 murder to 4. Among them, Ndlovu's uncle, who's a traditional leader, and a 26-year-old believed to have coordinated the hits from inside a Pietermaritzburg prison. Newzroom Africa's Letu Ndlovu has those details.
The Umgeni local municipality chief whip was shot and killed in full view of his family in December 2023. His family was in shock when it was discovered in court that one of the men arrested was his uncle, 56-year-old Simphiwe Eric Zuma.
Umfowabo kagogo ozala uNhlalayenza, so umzala noma umalume in fact waNhlalayenza, so besihlala sithi thina umzala sithi umalume because besazi ukuthi isumndeni and omunye umuntu akade benokuxhumana nje naye ngesikhathi esekhona in terms of ukusebenza kwakhe because ubesebenza nje obesebenza phansi komndeni naye eyinkosi ngaphansi kweHawiki ngebandla. So bekwabantu abefanele ngabasebenza ngokubambisana beyama-relatives, so kuyashoka nje kakhulu thina ukuthi sekuqhamuka yena futhi ezimuntu oyingxenye yokukhanda itulo ekubeni kade sazi ukuthi thina abawumndeni bekufanele izinto noma beyikhuluma but bakwazi ukuzikhuluma ngendlela ngokukhuluma ngabolula.
Umgeni Mayor Chris Pappas welcomed the arrests.
As the DA, we've known for a while who the suspects are. We have private investigators working on this particular matter. So the fact that it's taken so long for these individuals to be arrested when we've tried to provide the police with this information for a very long time is worrying, but we do take comfort in the fact that that seems to be that there is progress being made. We still have a lot of information that we want to provide to the police.
Meanwhile, Charges against one of the 5 accused, Zwelithini Derek Buthelezi, have now been withdrawn. The family also says that they hope that more arrests will be made, as they believe that more people could possibly be involved in the plot to have the father of 2 killed. The case has now been postponed to the 8th of August for a formal bail application for one of the accused, Simphiwe Eric Zuma.
And turning now to another former president who was in court this week. On Monday, Thabo Mbeki and former Justice Minister Bridget Mabandla appeared in the Pretoria High Court, seeking to intervene in a case brought by survivors and families of those who went missing, were kidnapped or killed during the repressive Apartheid-era regime. The families and the Foundation for Human Rights are seeking over 160 million rand in damages, accusing the government of a deliberate political decision to suppress cases referred to the NPA by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the 1990s. Mbeki and Mabandla said the accusations are defamatory and insisted on the chance to defend their actions while they were still in office, but the court has since dismissed this application.
This isn't a case where a witness can be called, whether he's a party or not, to have his version tested. This is all on paper. And if you're not given the opportunity to put your version on paper, your version doesn't see the light of day.
Never sees the light.
So, I mean, the applicants have chosen that course of action. They've chosen motion proceedings. I'm going to hear from Mr. Chastelson on this particular aspect as well.
They have chosen that, and the facts on which they want relief are facts which directly implicate my client, and the court must make positive findings based on those facts that there was a breach of constitutional obligations by his administration and himself and Ms. Mabandla to warrant the grant of the relief.
Bigoli deposed an affidavit in 2015 wherein he claims that several members of the executive, and in particular Mabandla, continuously put pressure on him to drop the TRC cases and ultimately cost him his job. But the lawyer representing the families of victims argued that there's no need for the pair to form part of the High Court proceedings because they have not been cited as parties in the case and have the option of clearing up any inaccuracies before the Commission of Inquiry that's been set up by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The South African Communist Party in KwaZulu-Natal has reaffirmed its commitment to contesting next year's local government elections independently of the ANC. The SACP is pushing ahead despite concerns being raised both inside and outside of the alliance about the consequences of such a move. They've also raised the alarm over corruption in municipalities, unresolved political killings, and what they call imperialist threats to South Africa's sovereignty. Nobuhle Modise has that report.
You know, in KwaZulu-Natal, you have a situation where among the ANC comrades themselves, they will kill each other. You see. So we cannot take that very lightly.
The SACP's Moses Mabhida provincial executive emerged from a 2-day strategy meeting adamant they are pressing ahead with plans to contest the 2026 local government elections independently.
The meeting agreed that the dynamics and an environment on the ground and the past experience on the contestation of local government in KwaZulu-Natal is a cause for concern. However, uniting the people and the working class will be our main guide, together with fostering strong alliance relationship and unity on the ground in fighting what we see now as an open counter-revolutionary agenda directed at the gains of our liberation, with national democratic revolution being the main target.
The party took aim at widespread corruption in KwaZulu-Natal municipalities, calling for an urgent alliance summit to tackle what it described as the endemic rot threatening governance.
When we come back, everything you need to know about how the government plans to manage the effects of the 30% tariff imposed by the Trump administration. That and more international news after the break. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Your Week in Politics here on Channel 405. US President Donald Trump's imposition of a 30% tariff against South Africa is set to come into effect from Friday. On Thursday evening, Trump also hit neighboring Lesotho and Botswana, whose taxes now sit at 15%. Our President Cyril Ramaphosa says the government is not backing down in its tariff negotiations with the United States.
Many other countries, as you correctly say, are affected by these tariffs, and others much worse than us. Brazil, for instance, 50%. And on our African continent, we are the largest economy and the most industrialized economy on the continent. So obviously, we will be a target, and because we export more than many other countries. So our task is to negotiate as strongly and as hard as we can with the United States. That, for us, is the main objective.
The kicking in of these tariffs could potentially shave off 0.6% of South Africa's growth outlook. On Thursday, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition outlined the plans in place to mitigate the effects.
As we have indicated to them that it is important as a country that we pursue our transformation objectives. It's important that we create an inclusive economy in South Africa, and that for us is a primary policy issue that we continue to engage on. But also it's important that we diversify markets, that you're able to look at different trading partners that you can work with. We have agreed that in anticipation of the decision that might be taken by the U.S., we need to be able to support all our entrepreneurs that are exporting into the U.S. We're establishing an export support desk. We've done a detailed assessment of impact on industry, impact on particular firms. So we've done a firm-level study to assess what the impact could be. And from tomorrow, they would be able to interface with the DTIC and the support programs that we're developing. Of course, it's very difficult to design a final support program until such time that we know what the decisions are from the U.S., because the impact will be different per industry, per company.
Special Envoy to the U.S. Mbuyiseli says South Africa needs to reimagine its foreign policy. He was speaking during the Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation's winter seminar on Tuesday.
The USA remains a central player in global development. South Africa's relationship with the US is crucial, and it is not transactional, but based on a long partnership rooted in shared values of democracy, justice, and progress. In the immediate term, South Africa is engaged in negotiations with the US to reach a solution on the tariff impasse. But beyond that, I think there is a conversation going on improving the relations between the two countries.
And US President Donald Trump says he's unlikely to attend the G20 Leaders Summit being hosted by South Africa in November, but might send someone else. Newzroom Africa's US correspondent Simon Marks has more.
It's been pretty apparent for a while that the Trump administration had antipathy towards the idea of the president attending that summit of G20 world leaders in Johannesburg. This seems to be the first official confirmation by the President of the United States that as things currently stand, he probably will not attend the summit. And it raises huge questions, of course, for President Ramaphosa, huge fresh questions about the nature of the relationship between the United States and South Africa just 2 days before those tariffs are due to kick in on South Africa, the August the 1st deadline ticking away very rapidly. And it also raises procedural questions for the G20 Leaders Summit, because remember President Ramaphosa, who has said for months that he was looking forward to inviting President Trump for a round of golf in South Africa, he was due to be handing the G20 gavel over to the American president so that Donald Trump can host next year's G20 Leaders Summit here in the United States. The gavel, presumably, will end up being handed over to a lower-level American official unless Donald Trump, between now and November, changes the viewpoint, changes his mind, as he's expressed it today aboard Air Force One.
That's a wrap from me this week, but stay tuned to Channel 405 this weekend for the coverage of the ANC-NEC's meeting. It's been a while since they've met, and there are some outstanding deliberations, including those related to the DA's continued stay within the GNU. But for now, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching.